introduction. Kubernetes Goat is designed to be intentionally vulnerable cluster environment to learn and practice Kubernetes security issues within the clusterized environments, right? So make sure before diving into this, do not run this the Kubernetes Goat cluster in your the production clusters or environments which are sensitive to your infrastructure, because it's as intentionally vulnerable. It has definitely bunch of vulnerabilities which may pose risk to the entire cluster itself, right? To give a high level overview, I'll try to just increase the font. Maybe it will be easier for you people. Yeah, yeah. So to give a high level overview, it has almost currently 14 scenarios, and I'm actively working on adding more and more scenarios. We will go through some of them, but these scenarios has been taken from the real world examples, which we have seen commonly the attacks happen in Kubernetes ecosystem, like finding sensitive secrets in a code bases which are pushed into Docker registries, and especially we see this kind of vulnerabilities like DIND in a common exploited in the entire market, like the CI/CD systems, or where you are using Docker socket, right? So I'll try to go through all these some of the scenarios at very high level, and showcase you how you can get started with using Kubernetes Code to learn and accelerate your Kubernetes security learning, right? So I'm still, as I said, it's a pretty active work. So I'm going to update this architecture and other parts as well soon. So before moving on, so a little bit about me. Myself, Madhu Akla. I work at Zibia as a cloud security specialist, and I have been pretty active in the community by working around like DevSecOps, All Day DevOps, and Null, and bunch of other communities. And I have been fortunate to speak and train at a bunch of conferences around the world, like Black Hat, DEF CON, Usenix, GitHub Satellite, and any other. And apart from that, I have been pretty actively working in the Kubernetes and cloud native ecosystem recently. So if you wanted to get like more information about these resources, feel free to follow me in Twitter. And if you have any suggestions, feedback, or ideas, please let me know. So to get started, before we diving into the Kubernetes itself, Goat. If you are like completely new to the Kubernetes ecosystem itself, I'm completely coming from a security background. I don't have complete what is exactly Kubernetes, right? So I would highly recommend you get started with learning Kubernetes, because this Kubernetes Goat is mainly trying to focus. You have basic understanding of Kubernetes as well as security testing, right? So what we can do after about, right? That's what this project about. So I would highly recommend you watch this fun video. It's a pretty good get started to understand what exactly Kubernetes is using children's guide, right? And there are a bunch of components in the entire Kubernetes ecosystem, if you see right in the cluster. So the Kubernetes, again, it works in a master and client, like sovereign client, like that master node. So the entire key part of the Kubernetes is API server. So whatever the call which made from either your developers or the command line tool like kubectl or kubectl, uh, at the end comes back and ask API server what decision to make, right? Similarly, whatever the other components which within the Kubernetes cluster, like the pods, deployments, or etcd, and other these all other objects like kubeproxy, at the end has to go back and talk to the API server, right? So this has been a key component. So we will see in the coming slides or the sections scenarios how we can exploit these different components within the Kubernetes cluster uh, by identifying some misconfigurations as well as known vulnerabilities, and some kind of attacks, as well as the more exploitation parts, right? Some of the resources I have kept, like if you are getting started with Kubernetes, these are pretty highly recommended. And like to get started with Kubernetes Code, like understanding about Kubernetes docs, as well as some tutorials by Kubernetes itself. These are pretty hands-on. You can try it in your browser to get started understanding. And some of the examples of each the object or component in the Kubernetes, what exactly it is. Cool. We assume while trying to Kubernetes Go that you have already the Kubernetes cluster has been set it up, so that we just going to install Kubernetes Goat on top of it, right? just to ensure that we are not trying to like focus only on specific Kubernetes environment, like not GKE or EKS or AKS, whatever the cloud provider suggests. So currently Kubernetes cluster Go supports most of these cluster environments. So it is independent of the existing cluster, right? But we assume that you have a cluster admin access before running the Kubernetes code, right? So I have seen pretty difficulty people facing while performing the setup and everything. So what I have done is I have created an online playground, so which is completely free by Katacoda, thanks to them. So which you can just go ahead and click this component like browser. Click this scenario. So it will go ahead and opens up in a browser. The entire setup has been done for you with the Kubernetes cluster as well as the code, right? So this kind of simplifies you to learn and get started with the code very quickly, rather than going and setting up in your own cluster and destroying on all these resources, right? I would highly recommend, if you wanted to just give it a try, go ahead and check out this Kubernetes Goat Katacoda environment, right? It's pretty easy. We will go through it in a soon upcoming sections. Suppose if you wanted to set up, there are a bunch of instructions for if you are using Google Kubernetes, but there is no restriction that you have to use Google Kubernetes. You can try it in Minikube or AKS, EKS, or any other environments, right? Cool. So once we assume that we have Kubernetes cluster set it up, if you ideally wanted to set it up in a local environment, there are some of the prerequisites, like one of them being the Kubernetes, the CLI utility called kubectl, kubectl, right? So let's go back and see if we have everything in this place to ensure that we are setting up from the scratch. So I can say that kubectl, version. So you can see that kubectl is configured perfectly for me here. And make sure you also have Helm version 2. The entire intention of this GOAT is to showcase the vulnerabilities within the environments, right? So the recent version of the Helm is 3. So we ideally need 2 because it has an intentionally vulnerable, the default setup, right? So make sure you configure Helm 2 within your path. Like if you type Helm 2 version, you should be able to see that it is in the path, right? So if you have these two prerequisites, you are set to try out the Kubernetes code, or you can just go back and try the Katacoda as well, right? So you can go back and look at our the GitHub repository and clone from here, right? The GitHub. And once you have, I have just cloned it locally, right? You will get the repository. So once you have the repository, basically you will go ahead and run the bash Kubernetes code setup. So let me just show you like what exactly it is doing actually. So it's nothing but doing very basic things, like just checking that you have kubectl set it up, and also ensuring that you have the Helm 2 is there. Then it's creating a Helm deployment and a bunch of the manifests, right? We will just see how it looks like. So let's go ahead and run the bash Kubernetes code setup, right? Yeah, it will take a while just to ensure all the components are ready, right? So if someone you are trying, if you want to try out right now, you can go ahead and try this Katacoda environment as well. Let me just put presentation mode. Yeah, you can go ahead and click on launch, which basically starts the Kubernetes cluster. And I have already cloned into the locally the same Git clone, and I'm doing the same setup. If you wanted to try out in the browser as well right now, right? Go ahead and try. So what exactly this setup.script is doing is, if you look at, this is trying to deploy these intentionally vulnerable scenarios, like the scenarios which we are going to see in the coming sections, right? So it is trying to set up the prerequisites to try out these scenarios as intentionally vulnerable apps as well as the misconfigurations, right? So you can see that it is deployed a Helm chart as well as bunch of manifests into the Kubernetes cluster. Cool. So now we can see that it has successfully deployed the Kubernetes code, and we can able to get access to the Kubernetes code environment by running the bash Kubernetes access Kubernetes code.sh, right? So let me show you what exactly access Kubernetes code is trying to do. So what I'm trying to do is to reduce the attack surface of the Kubernetes Goat exposing to the world, right? I'm trying to locally just put forward the pods which are in the cluster within to your only local system, like in the current system where you are running. So this help you to ensure that it's only exposed to your local system rather than exposing into the entire world, right? So let me go ahead and run the bash access Kubernetes Goat. So once it is done, you can go ahead and access the Kubernetes Goat with the URL 127.0.0.1 with 1234 port. So this is the home where you can just get started with the Kubernetes Goat for the all scenarios, like with whatever the possible attacks as well as the misconfigurations and vulnerabilities, right? So similarly, if you see, I think we are pretty much here. And make sure before running the command of the bash access, all pods are running. I think you see one pod is completed because this is to ensure these all pods running so that you can have exposed the Kubernetes code environment. Cool. I can see that just one pod is pending. Let me ensure that it's a running state. It'll get pods here as well. Yeah, it looks perfect here and here as well. Cool. So if you are trying out within the Katacoda playground, I think I have created a simple way so that you can try out. The guide is available here, whatever you see within the same place, as well as the home is here. And if you wanted to expose this to a bigger new tab, you can just click on this icon. So it will open up in a separate window, right? And also if you wanted to browse to another port, because some of the scenarios require you to do, so you can just change the port number here and just show the app. It will show you here, right? So it's a pretty simple environment to get started with the Kubernetes Code for you, right? I would highly recommend you can try with this before getting on. So let me go ahead the scenarios what we have, right? Before moving on. So to get started, I'll just showcase the one of the scenario, which is sensitive keys in a code basis, right? This, I think, is not only specific to the containers Kubernetes ecosystem. We commonly see this mistake or like the misconfiguration or what do you say, GitOps movement, right? Developers are like operations team mistakenly trying to like commit these the Git folders into the Docker container. Maybe they did Docker ignore or .git ignore some stuff, like whenever they're creating artifacts, right? So they end up leaking bunch of sensitive information because it has all the Git history, right? So as I said, once you have done a bash access Kubernetes, this thing, so then you have everything locally port forward. So if you click this link, we can able to access this scenario locally, right? Like this. So if you see, it is saying that welcome to Ubercool service written in Golang, running in AWS and function controlled using Git. So after you doing some recon and understanding bunch of the things, so we can easily identify that there has been a Git folder, right? You can look at like config. So you can see that there is a bare repository of Git lying there. So as there are a bunch of utilities out there to clone. So what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to use a simple utility called Git dumper, right? Git dumper. So what it does is basically trying to clone the entire repository in the its previous one is there. I'm trying to delete. So it will try to clone the entire remote Git repository into local system, right? So that's what you can see here. If you wanted to try out yourself without looking the solution, you can go ahead and try and see what you can explore. And if you're stuck somewhere, feel free to come back and look at the solutions, right? So you can see there is a Git folder. What I'm trying to do is I'm cloning the entire Git folder from the local host because currently that's where you are running. If you are running in a Katacoda playground, you might want to change this endpoint to whatever the endpoint which you have, right? So what I'm trying to do is clone the entire repository locally from the endpoint. So if I run, it will go ahead and clone the entire .git folder repository into local system as a K8s code, right? So now you can see the entire code base, which is there in the container in a local system with a simple Git dumper, right? So I can see there are a bunch of files. I can go ahead and read and understand what it is doing. I can see based on the code, it's a Golang code, right? So as you can see, the interesting thing here is .git folder, right? So if you wanted to look at the history of the Git, you can do git log, right? It will showcase what all endpoints which has, right? Like a final release, it happened, bunch of other commits, right? So you can go back to old history commits, like maybe like if I wanted to see what exactly happening here, right? You can do git checkout. Sorry, spell mistake, git checkout, right? I went to the one of the previous commit, right? Now, if you see what all changes, now you can see there is a one extra environment variable lying there, like .env file, right? So if you see, so you can see that there are some of the hard-coded AWS access key, secret key, which are definitely sensitive information. Ideally, if you wanted to go about exploiting this and going beyond this level, you can use these keys with the AWS configure, and you can go about doing post exploitation and attacking the AWS infrastructure itself, right? So as this is in an educational purpose, right? K8s code, Kubernetes code. So I try to keep the K8s code flag in the most of the scenarios so that you reach the level of place that this is how the vulnerability we wanted to showcase, right? But definitely you can go ahead and explore more attack surface as well here. But if you reach like K8s code flag, in some of the scenarios, you don't see this flag, but basically that's where solutions kind of help you, like you reach the point, right? So this is the one of the simple example, like you can see here. And also if you wanted to show this is there is another methods wherever I can showcase in a, like suppose you are auditing some kind of Kubernetes environment and you wanted to look at what exactly happening, right? There is another method also you can have, like you can just exec into the pod because you are just auditing as administrator or internal team, right? So I'm trying to do export the pod name and whatever the app it is running and executing into the pod, right? I am inside the app, right? So you can use utilities like the Truffle, Git secrets, bunch of open source utilities, which can help you to go through the Git repositories code base and understand what all is there any sensitive entropies or secrets is available, right? I'm just running a Truffle in the current repository. Now it will go through the code and identifies is there any potential secrets or any what do you say the highly entropies secret entropies. Uh, just going, yeah, you can see here, right? So there is, it identified the flags as well as the sensitive information like AWS access key and secret key. Because of this, it's a highly entropy, right? So you can use these kind of utilities and methodology as well. So this Kubernetes code is not intention to showcase just one way. It's up to your imagination, like what all tools, utilities you use. But whatever the solutions, I try to put it on one way so that you can consume and learn about Kubernetes security much better, right? So I'm still working on, as I said, like I'll try to add more miscellaneous sections and other stuff which are coming soon. And similarly, if you see an example of other scenario like similar to this current use case, right? Maybe we will look at like some private registry, right, which is more focused on the containers ecosystem, right? So if you take this scenario an example, we are assuming that most of the organizations which are out there, most of them might be using either public Docker images, which are coming from the Docker Hub, which is the official Docker registry, right? Or it might be using by organizations private registries themselves, right? Either like GCR, ECR, or like Quay, right? Or their own Docker private registry which is hosted. So here I'm trying to showcase a simple vulnerability which most of the initial days, I think this scenario I have taken from a real world example where Twitter used to have a product called Wine, which got hacked completely because they have exposed the entire private registry without any authentication, right? Back in the days. So if you see, I just went through the 127.0.0.1 1235, which is where the Docker private registry is running, right? So to just explore the scenario and what exactly happening, right? The Docker private registry has basically some API documentation. If you kind of follow that API documentation, you can make a query to the API registry and understand what exactly is happening and what all images available, what manifests it has, and each and every information, right? So let me go ahead and run the similar command like curl. You can see this is the default the Docker registry endpoint. So from here, you can do bunch of commands like catalog, underscore catalog, right? So you can see that there are two repository of images available in this current registry. One is Madhuakla KTS Goat Alpine, and another one is KTS Goat users repo, right? So you can keep enumerate and get more information because in this case, the current registry which is available is unauthenticated and maybe accessible internally because the Kubernetes has to fetch the images. Or sometimes you might end up finding the registry secrets in one of the node or in one of the CI/CD configuration systems. So if you end up this secret of the Docker registry, you can able to explore and attack and identify these repositories lying there. You end up seeing some kind of sensitive information because most of the developers or ops assume that because this registry is only intended for internal organization, they end up committing sensitive information because no one can see outside world, right? So as attacker, you can go back and explore this. You can fetch these images locally, as well as you can push sometime, putting some kind of backdoor some attackers does, right? So you can modify this image locally and tag it back and push to the new same image with the same tag as well as the same repository name. So whoever running these images, basically running your attacker code, right? So to just see the current example, so what I have done is in this case, in the Madhuakla KTS Code users repo, I'm just analyzing the manifest, right? So if you see this manifest there, it showcases bunch of basically the entire Docker inspect kind of information, right? Which is entire container information. So I can see that in one of the place where it basically in the wherever they are creating, they added a API key as environment variable while binding the Docker container itself and pushing into the registry, which is basically I try to showcase as this is intentionally vulnerable. I put it as a flag like KTS goat, the flag, whatever the thing, right? You can just see here. Let's go ahead and run the same command and get up for the flag. So, yeah, you can see here flags. Oh, it's basically broken. Let me go back and see here only maybe. Yeah, here you can see this all the stuff and you can see these are the environment variables, right? I think it should be here only. Yeah, Kubernetes as well. And just checking. Yeah, let me just check. Grab my phone. Yeah, you can see here API key. Yeah, this is what I was just trying to showcase. Basically, you can rather than just doing curl commands, ideally you can directly do Docker pull and you can just specify the registry and everything, and you can pull the image locally itself as well. And you can do like a bunch of analysis using utilities like Dive, or you can directly execute into the container and do more information analysis. Cool. So this is another scenario to just showcase, right? And there are other use cases as well. Like if you see one of the example, like Kubernetes namespace bypasses, right? So to just give a context here, by default, Kubernetes has a flat networking scheme, which means that basically any pod or any service within the Kubernetes cluster can talk to each other, right? So for example, if you think most of the developers or ops sometimes assume that because I'm trying to create a new namespace for a production team as well as a staging team, I have a new namespace, or like a database is in different namespace and the application is in different namespace, right? So these are just logically segregated, but there is no like hard security boundaries. By default, if you have in a different namespace, ideally you can go back and access the different namespace with by just accessing the IP or the service name in the Kubernetes, right? To just showcase the example, like if you see here, I'm trying to use a hacker container. I'll come back to that, what exactly it does later in the section, right? I'm It's already exists, looks like. Let me just check the thing. Kubectl get pods. Yeah, it looks like it already has deployed. Kubectl exec -it hacker container. You can do the bash sh. Yeah, so I'm inside the container. So what I'm trying to say is, as an attacker, you end up landing in one of the container, or you found some command injection vulnerability. So what all you can look services running out there, right? So what I'm trying to do is, as an attacker, I'm trying to first of all understand what exactly my IP address is, right? So that I can scan this range or maybe identify the stuff, what all services running. And also sometimes you can run print env, basically which lists all the services, some what are outside apart from this app in the current container, right? I can see build code service port is running here, and health check, metadata db service. So there are a bunch of other information you can get from the environment information as well, right? So what I'm trying to do here is I'm trying to run a simple scan at the entire cluster level, which is basically this entire range, which is the CIDR of 10 class range, like which is 10.0.0.8, which ideally scans for the entire cluster range in the current case, right? And try to identify, is there any known port which is open, which is 6379. I'm assuming in this scenario, we have deployed a Redis environment which is running, right? So it doesn't matter. In this current case, I'm trying to showcase you to specifically one port, but in real world, you end up seeing most of the MySQL ports, as well as the Redis, MongoDB, Elasticsearch clusters, especially, right, which are unauthenticated lying there. And you can definitely increase your attack surface or scope here by performing. So what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to run a Gmap on the entire network range for the specific port 6379. So it looks like, because this is a private range, I have to exclude this. So let me go ahead and exclude this in the map config, Gmap config. So let me exclude this config. So let me go ahead and run this command again. Now you can see this, it is basically trying to look in the entire cluster range for the port 6379 is anywhere it's open or not, right? Let's see, it will take some while, and you can see the results in the results.csv file outputted, right? So as I said, like it's not only specific to here, from here onwards, once you are inside a pod, all your traditional network security skills comes back into the play, right? You can go ahead and perform the port scanning and understand what all port services running, and is there any known vulnerabilities in some of the internal applications, and other attacks as well. I have seen personally in most of the cases, some of the companies or organizations end up not performing authentication or authorization checks within the cluster, because they assume that it is going to terminate the TLS or authentication or API gateway at the ingress level, which means before exposing to the outside world, right? So as we see, there is no network security boundary between the namespaces, right? If you end up inside, you might luckily see sometimes unauthenticated microservices lying there, and unauthorized services internally, which are not exposed to outside, which has so much sensitive information without authentication and authorization you can access inside, right? And there is another example, in a Kubernetes notation to access. If you know the service name, also you can use service name and the namespace to access those service within the cluster, right? Like in this case, if you know the service name, and the namespace, you can perform the same thing and access the service within the pod. Right? So it's taking a while, I think. Let's see how long it more takes. So what I'm trying to showcase here is basically as we have intentionally, deliberately deployed a vulnerable application, you can see there is a Redis instance lying there in a different namespace, which is within the same cluster environment. But due to Kubernetes nature, there is no network security between pods or service by default. So we can go ahead and perform or access using utilities like Redis CLI, and connect to that host and get the information, whatever out there, right? This is what I was just trying to showcase in this scenario. So as I said, it doesn't only stop here. Like we see a lot of Elasticsearch, Mongo, and a bunch of other services internally there. So if you apply your more traditional skills of security of Recon, as well as the scanning or information, the more you discover the information as well as services within the cluster from here. Still, it's gonna take some more time. Let's just come back to the scenario. Meanwhile, I'll try to showcase some more information. Right. So as I said, gaining more environment information. Like if you see in the cluster. Oops, okay. So if you say this is, I'm trying to just give a terminal here so that you can access the same cluster here. Cool. So by default, you can look at multiple informations if you end up in a pod, like identifying what kind of user you are running, and is it like, first of all, pod or like some kind of other environment, by looking at cat/proc self C group. So it will tell that, oh, this is a kube pod, so it is running in the Kubernetes pod as a pod, right? Sometimes you see if you are running same command for the Dockers, so you see Docker or run C, whatever the containerized environment it is running, right? So, and also you can perform like looking at the etc host, so what kind of host it is accessible, and sometimes you see some other internal endpoints as well as whenever it is required, right? And also, is there any extra mounted options from the host system, right? From the host system to the current Kubernetes. And also you look at like a bunch of other places, like is there any home folder they have created any specific information, right? So these all you can go ahead and look at, like especially PrintenV. I think we have covered this in the previous thing. It has huge amount of information, and sometimes you end up seeing sensitive informations like the secret keys. If users or developers attach their secrets into Kubernetes secrets, which are by default, by the way, are not encrypted, they are encoded in base64. So you end up, sometimes they are mounting back into the environment variables, where it might be definitely useful information to have a look, right? So yeah, that's kind of somewhat like a recon or a discovery, and there can be definitely more beyond if you wanted to drill down, right? So you can see the Gmap scan completed for us. Let's look at the results. You can see there is a one IP out there, which is running with the 6379 port within the entire cluster, right? So let's go back and connect Redis CLI and specifying the host option to connect to that specific host. Now you can see this, it's successfully connected without, because there is no authentication and checks, right? So let's see what all information it contains. I'm also forgot the keys commands, right? Yeah, keys, exactly. So you can look at the all keys available in the current Redis. I can see there is one key available, and you can get the key information, get and key name is secret stuff. You can see we have achieved the Kubernetes code flag, right? So this is just to showcase an example. As you see, if you end up in, suppose Elasticsearch, you might do the endpoint, like, sorry, just let me give an example. Curl localhost 9200 port of the Elasticsearch. Maybe you can do cat indices and get more information from there, like beyond, and you can go ahead and dump the entire indices and progress from there as a post exploitation, right? Cool. So that is to one of the simple scenarios, right? Let me just showcase the one of the last scenarios. I think we are running out of time after that to showcase each and everything, right? I'll try to showcase what is the upcoming things for the Kubernetes Goat as well after that. So this is one of the common thing. It's not only specific to the Kubernetes, I would say, in a container ecosystem in general, right? So there is a possibility that if developers or ops team didn't specify what kind of resources this container required, right? For example, if they're trying to run a Java application, which might end up requiring huge amount of memory requirement, right? And if developers or DevOps teams didn't specify the uh, like, for example, like, let me just showcase the thing. It's good. So for example, in the same scenario, what we are trying to do is hunger check. Yeah. So what I'm trying to say is they didn't specify any resources for the Kubernetes. So by default, there is no resource limit or the resource limit set by the either the deployment, or if it is not set by the namespace level by using resource quotas or limit rangers. So you end up as an attacker, you can consume or drain the entire node resources yeah, by performing like a basically simple stress test or DOS kind of thing to consume those resources within the Kubernetes cluster, right? So let's look at the scenario example. Go ahead and click this thing. So you end up in landing in a Gotti terminal with a shell where the pod is running, right? Uh, as we've seen that it doesn't have any resource limits applied currently, and didn't mention any current resource limits performed. So what I'm trying to perform here is I'm trying to run a stress ng, which is basically a stress testing tool, and specifying that 2 GB of bytes for the 30 seconds. Maybe I'll try to reduce it to 10 seconds. Let's go ahead and run this command. You can see now it started performing. Like let's go ahead and get pods, which pod it is. So hunger check, yeah. kubectl top pod, you can specify the pod name, and you can see it's a 3 MB now. And let's see, once it is performing a stress test where it is trying to consume 2 GB of resources. This can be, you can just change it to 10 GB, or like if you wanted to do for CPU resources, you can do for CPU resources as well. Like now you can see from here 3 MB to it automatically went up into almost 1.3 GB, right? Like, so you can see this drastical change. So if you don't have specified these resource limits, basically you are trying to consume as much resources as from the Kubernetes. And there are two cases here. If your organization is using auto scaling mechanisms, like to, if suppose if you wanted to on the fly, if you wanted to auto scale, so basically you are making the company to pay more basically by creating more resources and auto scaling the infrastructure. Or if you have a limits, basically this is one of the biggest fix, easier fix as well for stopping these kind of denial of service, or like making more consumption of resources, right? So that's kind of one of the scenario I wanted to just showcase, right? And you can also run benchmarks, as I said, to just conclude the entire Kubernetes code session, right? So you can go ahead and run this, the deployment of CAS benchmarks for the Docker, right? So this I had to do some struggle to create this scenario, because Docker required to run in the host. So I'm trying to pass the socket from the host system and mount bunch of volumes and other stuff. So you can either run using this deployment. So currently what I did is I deployed using as a daemon set, which means each pod in the Docker CAS benchmark, if you have a multiple nodes in your cluster, like kubectl get pods, I have currently, sorry, get nodes. So currently I have 2 nodes. So you can see 2 different pods running like Docker bench security, because each your node has to run the CAS benchmark on the each node, right? So ideally you can run using the daemon set, or if you prefer running it in using like some kind of manually in the host level, you can run it as well, right? This is kind of like an audit. If you are doing like a white box or the internal like assessment, like what is the current posture of the container security, right? You can do this. So you can look at the kubectl get daemon sets. Basically, as I deployed as a daemon set, you can see it's 2 running, pretty much up and running, both of them, and available. So let's go back and execute one of the Docker bench and run the Docker bench security, right? So let me go ahead and do kubectl exec Docker security. Oh, it is trying to ask, yeah, sh. I'm executing into the container. As you see, again, this is a hacker container. I'll just come back to this, what exactly hacker container is, right? I'm trying to run here. So what I'm doing is hacker container has a bunch of utilities. So Docker bench security is already part of it. So you can see Docker bench is available. So what I'm doing is I'll go ahead and run the Docker bench security in the system. So because the current daemon set is designed in such a way, it is mounting the Docker socket and all the resources from the host system. So we are ideally running from the pod the entire scan in the host system in the Kubernetes cluster, right? So if you see I'm just running the default Docker bench security. You can see it will go ahead and perform bunch of security checks in your host system of Docker container security, right? So it will just take in a while, and it will give you the detailed results and analysis of the Docker bench security. Similarly like this. It take a while. And similarly, if you wanted to perform like Kubernetes CAS benchmarks, which is Kube Bench Security by Aqua Security, right? You can go ahead and run this the jobs nodes as well. Like it'll perform as a job, and it'll yields you results with the what all misconfigurations, or is there any possible security risks which your cluster has exposed, right? And one thing I just wanted to notify here, if you are using this in a managed clusters, the master node you don't control, so you might not able to run or perform these kind of checks in the master node. You see jobs pending state sometimes, right? If you are master node. So you can see clearly here, Docker bench security started running. It identified which version of Docker it is running, and it is trying to perform the host specific configuration checks. It is saying that ensure auditing is configured for the Docker daemon, which is currently not configured, and a bunch of audit checks are failing here. As well as you can see, ensure network traffic is restricted to the default bridge, which is by default currently open. Suppose if you land up in one of the container, you can able to do like between the containers thing, right? There is no security. And similarly, IP tables, these are the standard checks. They perform at different levels, like a daemon level, as well as the Docker daemon configuration level, host level checks, right? And container images and build files as well. Like, does this container is running with a root privilege or just a normal user, or does it have any seccomp profiles or AppArmor profiles, right? This kind of stuff, right? So this is the some of the scenarios I just wanted to showcase, and there are plenty of them out there if you wanted to try out and look at. And as I just said in the previously, we have used multiple scenarios, Hacker Container. This is another open source project I have created to just help these Kubernetes security assessment teams or researchers or like teams who are trying to test Kubernetes security issues with the list of utilities available, almost 50 plus utilities available, to look at using bunch of tools like Am I Contained and other thing, to just name Am I Contained. So it will try to give you the complete information, which container runtime using, are you sharing the process host namespace from the host system to outside, and what all capabilities do you have? Do you have any seccomp profile applied? So it's kind of gives more information, right? So this, let me just show you Madhu Akula, Hacker Container. So this utility is basically contains bunch of utilities to perform and explore more attack surface within the Kubernetes cluster. So feel free to go ahead and explore these tools, and you can use in while attacking and performing security analysis of the clusters, right? So that's it, mostly pretty much about the Kubernetes thing. So before moving on, if you are running this Kubernetes Goat in your cluster environments, especially in your own managed, I would highly recommend you tear down the entire infrastructure, because as I said, it has so much intentional vulnerabilities. If you go ahead and run the bash tear down Kubernetes Goat sh, so it will try to delete all the cluster resources, right, which has been deployed, and it can able to like remove whatever deployed from the Kubernetes code. But as just in a best practices, it would be really great if you can create a different cluster and ensure delete the cluster environment itself would be ideal. And if you are practicing on the Kubernetes code from the Kata Coda, like as I did here, like for example, right? So it once you log out or like sign out, it automatically clears up in the instance. So it should be pretty easy for you to get started, right? So that's it as kind of high level what exactly Kubernetes project is trying to do and get started. And I have also put the report from Chekovu by Bridgecube people. Like they have scanned this Kubernetes manifest, which are used to deploy this entire Kubernetes code, because it has ideally intentional vulnerabilities. So these are some of the vulnerabilities they have come up with, which are intentionally available in the manifest, right? It's pretty interesting to see, right? And that's it with my side.